Hello, I'm Bill LeMay, and thank you for watching Community Matters. We hope you'll continue to watch as we discuss issues facing our community and provide you with the resources and information needed to find solutions. "20 years ago, gambling became prevalent statewide with the launch of the North Carolina Education Lottery. Introducing scratch-off tickets, Powerball, and eventually Mega Millions, just last year, sports gambling went live here with licensed operators such as FanDuel and DraftKings. For years, North Carolina has put forth efforts to combat gambling addiction. That's important because since last March, our state has received a 79% increase in calls to its problem gambling helpline. With us now to shed light on the topic is Kelly Crosbie, licensed clinical social worker and director of the Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Kelly, it's good to have you on the program. Thank you for taking time for us today. Welcome.
It is great to be here. Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am the director of our Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services. It's a big, long title. But what I do is I work for the Department of Health and Human Services here in North Carolina, and we're responsible for, to the best of our ability, making sure that we have a well-functioning public mental health substance use system. And part of what we oversee is actually the North Carolina Problem Gambling Program. So that's one of our responsibilities as well.
Well, not to get political on this, I don't want to do that, but just maybe you can give me a background. In the state of North Carolina, I recall they were very much opposed to gambling. And now, of course, as in the intro, we know that we've got a lot of gambling going on here. I'm just wondering, what's your take on all of that, just the history of it and where we're at today?
Yeah, so it's tricky to get into politics and all the things that go behind decisions and laws here in North Carolina. But I will say that, we've had things like the lottery in North Carolina for a very long time. And with proceeds from the lottery, we have funded our North Carolina Problem Gambling Program. And as part of the legislation that authorized or legalized sports betting in North Carolina, we also got additional funds to fund the problem gambling program. So there is a recognition that while this may be fun, pastime or activity for some people, that some individuals might develop a problem, and therefore we need to make sure that we have adequate educational and treatment programs for folks.
Well, and you can't turn on your computer or even watch television or whatever, radio, without getting ads about all of these gaming opportunities. How's the problem, has it grown or hasn't it grown since I guess the first act was the education lottery, and then since then we've gotten a lot going. So what's going on, Kelly?
So right now, and let me just give a little context too around problem gambling. Like I said, we've had a program forever. Most people don't even know about it because problem gambling is one of those things that we don't talk about a lot. And we know that when we don't talk about things, people don't raise their hand and we don't identify issues that might just exist in the population, but we're not even aware of them or know what to call them. The data we have now says that about 5% of the population has problem gambling behaviors or struggles with problem gambling. We don't know if that could be higher or if that's going to grow, but 5% is actually a lot. And that's 5% of people who've actually acknowledged or are aware that they have a problem, which always means that there are more people yet who aren't aware or who have not acknowledged that they have a problem. Some things are growing and some things we won't know yet. So availability and opportunity to gamble, obviously that's growing, right? And you mentioned yourself the advertisements we see everywhere. So people who maybe didn't go out and purchase a lottery ticket now are able to just gamble right from the safety of their home, and it's easy and available, right? We have seen an increase in the number of people calling our problem gambling hotline, and I know we'll put that 1-877 number up for folks. Our website, which is morethanagame.nc.gov, we've seen a lot more traffic. And that doesn't mean necessarily that people have more problems. It does mean that people are very aware now of gambling. They are very concerned, and they want to make sure they understand how to recognize signs and symptoms of problem behaviors either in themselves or their loved ones. So we're getting a lot more informational calls. to see like its longer term impact on folks, like if we do see an increase of people having problem gambling behaviors, it's a little too soon to tell.
Even though we can't get the numbers yet, Kelly, because it's really too new. You've been here a long time. I mean, you've been doing this, so you've already touched on the fact that it probably is easier to get to some of these things than in the past. Kate, do you have like a profile of someone who may be more apt to be drawn into this than someone who wouldn't?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I want to be careful how I respond because some people are just more susceptible and people want to immediately go towards things like, we have addictive personality. And that always sounds really, really blamey, right? But sometimes we place people in condition or in situations or conditions in which it's more readily available or it's more conducive. So we do know that people that grow up in households where gambling was a norm, guess what? Not surprisingly, they also gamble more themselves. And with electronic sports betting in particular, we are seeing, and I don't think this is going to surprise anyone, young males are using electronic sports betting more than any other population. And so we don't want to jump to conclusions about, necessarily why that is, but we want to acknowledge that that is the case, right? We also know that people from lower socioeconomic groups tend to gamble more or have more exposure to gambling. And it's just part of your culture and your community. And so part of, sports betting is sports culture, right? And so we know for some parts of our culture, and certainly for some young adult men, that's a big part of who they are and a part of their identity and part of what they do for fun, as are things like gaming, right? So sports betting kind of puts it all together, that gamification of things, the instant hit and the fun of doing things electronically like games, and also sports, which we're all really excited about, especially here in North Carolina. So we're finding that young adult men are using electronic sports betting a whole lot more than anyone else. Not a surprise, but that is also helping us to really make sure that we're working with adolescent males, right? So they are able to gamble responsibly when the time comes.
Well, Kelly, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about who this gambler may be. Maybe you're one of them. And then, of course, get into a hopeful segment where, help is available. So come right back.